Awesome. Hi, everyone. Panos here from 𝐭𝐚𝐽𝐞. Very excited to have all of you joining us here today at this week's webinar, where we're going to be discussing with Catie Harris, 𝐭𝐚𝐽𝐞, the breath analysis system that we all know, and specifically how it is being used by nurse practitioners and other health professionals who are using it in several different lines of businesses, but primarily focusing on IV therapies and also GLP-1 administration. So, Catie, thank you so much for joining me today. Much appreciate your time. And yeah, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. So for today's webinar, we're gonna first of all hear Catie talk about her business and a little bit about her background. Then I'm gonna go into a short overview of what 𝐭𝐚𝐽𝐞 does, because I'm sure some of you are somewhat familiar with 𝐭𝐚𝐽𝐞, so we want to make sure that we're all on the same page. And then we're gonna go into a more detailed discussion about how Catie is using 𝐭𝐚𝐽𝐞 in her practice and success stories and other types of efficiencies she has seen utilizing her system.
Yeah, absolutely. So I run Nursepreneurs, which is a business to help nurses start businesses, and really excited to bring really high quality products and service lines to them. And I have another business called Philly Wellness Center, which is where I do all my clinical practice and keep up to speed. And so, just working with 𝐭𝐚𝐽𝐞 for the last year, I was like, I have got to share this with everybody because it's been amazing and it's been a game changer for our clients. And especially in IV hydration and anybody doing the semaglutide, this is a must to listen to and learn about this. So, this is what I wanted to share.
Awesome. And do you also mind sharing a little bit more about Nursepreneur? Because I think it's a great initiative that people should know about.
Yeah, so Nursepreneurs, we started about 8 years ago, and the focus was really on helping the nurses to find business niches that they could practice in, whether they're an RN or a nurse practitioner or whatever the case may be, so that we help them build service lines and to build that business, market the business, and be successful in whether they choose to do a clinic or IV hydration or wellness or whatever the case may be. We have business startup and marketing services for them.
Awesome. Yeah. We've seen that from our perspective, a lot of health professionals coming from different backgrounds needing a lot of support when it comes to the business side of things, but then also how you merge the clinical side with the business side. So I think, these types of initiatives can be very, very helpful, especially when you're starting a business in a arguably very competitive environment.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all of that, Catie. I'm going to go ahead and walk people through 𝐭𝐚𝐽𝐞, the different things that we do, and then we can dive deeper into your use case. So let me share my screen. You guys can see my screen, right? Awesome. So let's start with the basics. What is breath analysis and how it all started? Breath analysis is not new. It has been around for almost 100 years. And it started as the fundamental methodology for understanding energy expenditure in the human body. That was back in the early 1900s. And then over the course of the previous century, it found numerous applications in either pulmonology, cardiology, nutrition science, exercise science, and many of you may know it as VO2 max testing or metabolic testing. And the reason why that is because these names came from very popular metrics that come out of breath analysis. However, these two metrics are just two of the 23 things that you get out of this test. And we're going to talk about these obviously a lot. Over the course of the previous century, because it saw a lot of different applications in different fields of medicine and wellness, breath analysis is now considered the probably most reliable methodology and assessment method for understanding, first of all, the oxygen chain, That is your heart, lungs, and cells, the trifecta of systems that are keeping you alive at any given point in time. And also by looking at how you're breathing, you can also understand things about your nervous system, your brain function, and your posture. That's why, the PNOI report is such a comprehensive assessment of human biology, and the assessment itself and how you analyze these systems is something that has been endorsed and validated by many big medical organizations like the American Heart Association, American Thoracic Society, and so on. Now, the problem, which we pretty much solved as a company, is the fact that before we came along, it was just very expensive to do the full-blown experience of metabolic testing because devices were expensive and they were very difficult to operate. Then you needed someone who needed to have a lot of experience to analyze the data. Again, metabolic testing is not just about VO2max and your metabolic rate. There's a lot of meat in the data, and to have someone who knows how to look into all the different pieces of data coming from the test is very difficult and expensive. And then what we also found out throughout our experience is that people don't just want a report, even if this report is very comprehensive, they want a plan. And so after the report, there is the very fundamental need of providing people with a nutrition and training program, which is obviously also costly for the business. And what we did is obviously we made the device a lot smaller, a lot more portable, a lot easier to use. It is something that you basically control from your smartphone, and also maintaining the clinical grade accuracies with independent validations. It's a system that is going to give you the same accuracy as the systems you find in sports science labs. But then also we automated the process of analyzing all the data coming out of the PNOI system. Very soon, also having the ability to merge the information coming out of the PNOI system with other biomarkers you're collecting from blood tests, urine tests, DNA tests, and so on and so forth. And then also coupling that with all the infrastructure you need in order to provide highly personalized nutrition and training programs, and also having a patient monitoring dashboard all in the same software suite. Because we made it very small, portable, easy, and end-to-end, we've seen adoption by places that wouldn't normally do breath analysis. For instance, Four Seasons is now doing breath analysis. Equinox is doing breath analysis with PNOI. High-end hospitality resorts across the world are adopting us because we brought an end-to-end seamless experience for the business. A little bit of science. Breath analysis starts from three fundamental signals. And these are oxygen concentration, CO2 concentration, and flow volume. And to get all of the totality of information, you need to measure these three signals on a breath-by-breath basis. So what you see here is an actual representation of what the signals look like when someone is breathing in and out. And through these three waveforms, you analyze them in many different ways, and you come up with all of these 23 biomarkers. Some of them, as I said earlier, you may know them, VO2max, metabolic rate, but there are some other less known ones which are very important, like O2 pulse, shows us how much oxygen your heart is pumping into your body, and that can be very indicative of a potential underlying cardiovascular disease, and so on and so forth. Now, the beauty of breath analysis, and I'm sure Catie is going to talk more about it as she is implementing PNOI tests to almost every person coming through the door, is the fact that it brings about the biggest bang for the buck when it comes to the spectrum of things that you can understand in the human body and the simplicity of it. So breath analysis, as opposed to pretty much anything else you can do out there, is instant. It is quite accurate, medically validated. It also gives you a very, very wide spectrum of systems it can analyze: metabolism, heart function, lung function, nervous system function, and many other subsystems. The process is simple. You do a resting test, 10 minutes, or you can complement that with an exercise test, which is also about 10 minutes, maybe a little bit more, 10 to 12 minutes. And then that spits out the PNOE report. And as I said earlier, this soon can also be complemented with information coming from other biomarkers from tests that we may be doing. A little bit of also interesting background on why breath analysis can be very, very interesting if you're dealing with people taking GLP-1s. These are 3 charts showing what we call the crossover point, which is something that you can get from a PNOE test if you take them through the exercise test on a bicycle or a treadmill. And really what the crossover point is where carbohydrate oxidation becomes greater than fat oxidation. So as we know, when we start to exercise more intensely, our body's going to shift from fat utilization to carbohydrate utilization. And that's going to happen to everyone. However, based on how metabolically healthy we are, this transition is going to happen later in the exercise intensity spectrum. And what we see here, and this is basically from peer-reviewed research, the later this transition occurs, the more metabolically healthy the person is. And so in the first chart, where you see the power output chart versus where the crossover point occurs, you can see that it actually happens much later in the exercise session versus as you're going down the spectrum of health from a professional athlete to someone who has been diagnosed with metabolic syndrome, you see that crossover point occurring earlier and earlier. And as we see in many of the people that we test thousands of people, those who have some sort of underlying metabolic issue or there is suspicion for a metabolic dysfunction, this crossover point in many cases never occurs, meaning that carbohydrate oxidation is always going to be higher than fat oxidation. Also, something else that is very interesting to let people know of is the fact that even pharmaceuticals now are looking into fat oxidation, specifically a surrogate metric of fat oxidation called respiratory exchange ratio, which is a breath analysis metric from which we derive fat and carbohydrate oxidation. They are looking at respiratory exchange ratio as a marker for determining whether GLP-1 drugs, and specifically new generation of GLP-1 drugs, are actually efficient. Here's a case study, I think very interesting one, and we're going to talk a little bit more about some similar cases with Catie, of a person that was working with one of our other affiliates. His name is Leonard Pastrana. He works for New BioAge, pioneers in the peptide space and GLP-1 space. They're using PNOE with every person they engage. And this is a person of someone, this is the case of a person who went through long COVID. Long COVID is now considered a condition that can impact your metabolism pretty significantly. And you can actually see how this person, before contracting COVID, was actually in a pretty decent state. His VO2 max was around 45, which is great for a 41, for a 40-year-old. His zone 2, which is the heart rate spectrum where you burn the most fat, almost like the crossover point that we discussed earlier, was between 103 to 116 beats per minute. That's also pretty decent. And then the fat max point was 103 beats per minute. And then after contracting COVID and going into the long haul COVID territory, you can see how VO2 max plummeted. And zone 2, heart rate spectrum went down, fat max went down, everything was pretty much deteriorated. And so they took this person, took him through personalized programming with PNOE. That means many things, and we're going to discuss that with Catie. And they didn't just give this person personalized nutrition and training, they also complemented his treatment with GLP-1. And this person actually saw a tremendous improvement in all 3 very indicative areas of his metabolic health, including his VO2 max, almost at the level where it was before, same for zone 2, and almost the same for fat max. Last but not least, a few interesting pieces of information that you can get from the PNOE report. Biological age, that's probably one of the biggest sellers of the test when it comes to your customers. We use VO2 max in order to calculate your biological age. And since VO2 max is one of the strongest predictors of mortality risk and morbidity risk, it's also one of the best predictors of your biological age. We measure your metabolism, understanding whether it's faster or slower. Sorry about that. And also that can help us determine whether you need to be consuming more or less calories than what you're doing in order to achieve your weight goal. We understand fat and carbohydrate oxidation. That's something that we spoke about. And then based on this, we can determine the optimal breakdown between fats, carbs, and proteins for your diet. Based on the limitations that we identify from the test, we can determine the optimal breakdown between the 3 different types of physical exercise. And then last but not least, we understand how you're utilizing fuel in the entire spectrum of intensity as you're exercising. And that denotes your training zones, but also how your metabolism is shifting during exercise. That was pretty much it. Now, I would like to switch it over to Catie, who can, take the lead from here and discuss a little bit more about her practice, how you've seen some of the things that I talked about in your perspective, and obviously share any form of success, business or client success that you've seen in your practice.
Yeah, absolutely. So in my business in the Philly Wellness Center, we do hormone therapy and weight management. And one of the things that we kind of come up against time and time again, before PNOE was that, people struggle with their weight. They struggle with, knowing why they're not losing weight. And this was really, really helpful. Like one of the first measurements that was extremely helpful was that resting metabolic rate and how many calories they're taking in, because a lot of them, especially on semaglutide, they just stop eating, right? That their caloric intake drops down to like 1,000 calories, and you can't function on 1,000 calories. It's not like it directly goes to fat storage and nothing else. Like the whole body suffers. And so like really helping them to build that number up with the dietary plan. And that was part of the issue too. Like you had mentioned having that support. I'm maybe got one class of nutrition, is kind of terrified of having to talk to people about nutrition in a lot of ways, like what your macro doses should be, what this should be, what that should be, the breakdown. Like it would take an extensive amount of study, and I just, I'm a solo practice. I can't delve into that. And then the whole metabolic aspect of it as well, like talking to people about their exercise programs. It's a whole other, like you need a master's or a PhD in these areas, and I just don't have the time to counsel people on that kind of stuff. And that was like the real selling point for me in this, was that I could do the test, and then the PNOE becomes an extension of my team. Like, oh, you need to talk to the metabolic expert who's going to explain this, and the nutritionist is going to explain that, and the app helps you to pick the right foods. And so it feels like I have like this big extensive team that I don't have to pay 6 figures to, to have them in my clinic, which is a small practice, it's a startup. So, one, I don't have that kind of money in the first place, but 2, this allows me to have the resources to really have a comprehensive program. So it differentiates you between the mail order people too. Like, so you can buy semaglutide in the mail and then just send you the vial and you're on your own, and good luck. This allows us to look at, the disease state, improvements over time, really tailor it to their unique specific issues. So that was a huge part of it.
Yeah, and this is something that we've seen with many affiliates, of all sizes, right? Ranging from a clinic that is only now starting, that doesn't have the operational bandwidth to hire the person to do the consults, to hire a part-time nutritionist or a full-time nutritionist to build the plans. But this is not just the case with a smaller practice. This is something that we've seen with larger, establishments and even chains. We have, several clients of ours who have, locations in the 10 to 20, or in some cases even more, and they're also having a very hard time attracting talent, retaining talent. And so having some sort of tool that can automate that and put the logistics of providing a comprehensive plan into autopilot is just very important. And so it pretty much allows you to scale in a very, very risk-free way.
Yeah.
Another question that I had for you is, up until now, what has been like the most attractive insight that customers have seen in the Pnoy report, and how do you typically include it in the workflow of customers entering your business?
Yeah, and you had mentioned before, like the metabolic age, that one hits hard. It hits home hard, because if they come in and then they're 50 and their report says they're 57, people don't like that. And it's one of those numbers that you can't argue. It's not like the machine's being mean or trying to get at you or whatever the case may be. But and we pair it as well with body composition. So, and it correlates like beautifully. It's kind of like, all right, well, your metabolic age is this, and you have all this visceral fat. So we need to get this down.
Kind of makes sense based on your visceral fat,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they can't deny it. So that makes it extremely powerful for people to want to do something, because the next question is like, how do I do this? What do I do next? And it lends into the treatment plans. So that number, along with that RMR, but also the RER, looking at whether they're fat oxidating or carb oxidating, is a powerful metric too. Like if they came in and they're fasting and their RER is high, because they're using carb as a fuel source. We can talk to them about that. Like, you have metabolic dysfunction. I don't need to run labs on you. I can tell you right now, you're metabolically dysfunctional, and we need to do something.
Totally. And something that we've also seen with many affiliates out there is that having this kind of third party validation behind the results you're giving to someone, like, hey, it's not just me saying that to you. It's actually a third party report indicating that there's a problem here, and having the ability to generate this report without doing lab work and stuff like that is at the core of why people use Pnoy extensively as an engagement mechanism to get people to subscribe to a program, but then also stick to a program, because retesting is easy, right? And so you can very quickly understand how things are improving. You hook them up through the same process. You just put the mask on, have them breathe normally for 10 minutes, and then boom, you can very quickly understand whether what they did over the past month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever the case may be, has actually paid dividends when it comes to their physiology.
Right. Yeah. And the other part too, especially with like the GLP-1s, is that dietary breakdown, because, I always tell them they actually need to keep their calories up, and they can focus on fat and protein. And a lot of times that's what the Pnoy device spits out. In your example, it was like 35% fat. Well, most people would freak out, and they're eating like low fat cheese and low fat milk. And I'm like, you got to cut that shit out. Like, you can't, you don't want to eat low fat stuff. You want the fats, because it will help you stay satiated. And even the device is telling you you need fat in your diet, you need protein in your diet. So that breakdown, and then having it again when they go on the app, they can choose based on their dietary recommendations, and they get those they get the stuff that they need, the macronutrients that they need to support their breathing. And it's amazing that you can get that much information just from breath. I mean, it's just fascinating.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in the breath, and it's arguably the most underutilized type of analysis, and that's what we started PNOE at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Shifting gears a little bit towards the business side of things, can you talk to us a little bit about how you structure your business model around PNOE? How do you charge? How frequent is the retest, and how do you fuse PNOE into the other things that you're doing in your clinic?
So we do basically like Leonard, whoever walks in the door, gets strapped up to the PNOE. So we have the version where we can offer it to everybody, and they just, it doesn't cost us anything. So, and it gives us so much information that lends itself to treatment plans that it's like a no-brainer to use it that way. So, and in some level, it's like a lead magnet too, because I've taken this to conferences or not conference, what are the events or trade shows and stuff like that. And I set up
Have you done corporate wellness at all with PNOE yet, or no?
I have. That's a good idea. But I haven't, because I'm a solo practice and I'm drowning in stuff already. But but I take it to these events, and people get really, like, I have a line, like, people want to know what their VO2 max is, because that's, people know what that is, or especially athletes out there, or anybody that's in the fitness world. And they're interested in that metabolic age and what they can do next. So I use it as a lead gen at those conferences, and it works beautifully. And then for the weight loss resistance patients, we do follow them on a quarterly basis. And I've been talking to a lot of personal trainers to incorporate this in their personal training processes. So that's, it's taken me a long time to get here because we've been so busy with everything. But that's like the next level at this point, and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, we also see that in our trade shows. We do attend a lot of trade shows. For folks listening, stay tuned, because we have about 20 trade shows we're attending from now until the end of the year. So
oh my
perhaps
God,
we'll we have multiple teams across the US obviously doing them. I'm going to be in some of them, but obviously not all. There's always a line, in our booths, because people just want to know, and it's a very easy way of knowing. To your point about corporate wellness, definitely look into it. I know that some of our affiliates have put in the time and effort to crack that market open. And really, if you do, it's a cash cow. And the thing is that the most successful way through which affiliates have cracked into corporate wellness is by using the RMR test. They go in, RMR test, like, super simple, non-invasive. They just give it to everyone for free. They just walk in and they tell to an entire company, like the whole workforce gets a free resting metabolic test done. Everybody's going to do it. And then, which is a segue to what I want to talk next, is they are able to upsell many of the services that they have in their clinic. And our report is specifically designed to do that. You can bring into our software all the different things that you're offering, and then they become recommendations in the report based on what we've seen in the data. And arguably that becomes one of the most powerful upselling mechanisms, whether you're selling things in a corporate wellness setting or whether you're selling things to a walk-in customer. Basically, you can, objectively paint their physiology and then tell them that because you have this, you need to do this. For instance, red light therapy. I'm bringing up red light therapy because it's an assessment, a modality that we would prescribe to someone that has a cellular limitation. So someone that has, like, impaired fat oxidation would benefit from red light therapy, because it is a modality that is known to improve mitochondrial function, which is going to help with fat burning efficiency. So that becomes a lead generator for their services. And also, by retesting, this is equally important. People can understand how these modalities have actually impacted client physiology, which is also a very big problem because the thing with these modalities is that, yeah, you spend $100 or even more in some cases per red light therapy session, and you don't know if this thing is working or not. Like maybe in some cases it's like a feel good factor, but it's totally different to be able to visualize in a metric format that this thing is actually helping you at a biological level.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
Seeing the trend over time is really important because I do have a lot of people that are like, well, is the red light really doing anything? There's that kind of, they have it in the back of their mind that it's some kind of voodoo or snake oil. And when you can actually show them that it made improvements, it's really powerful.
Totally. And that's the reason why probably you guys are familiar with the superhuman protocol, which is basically the combination of red light, PMF, and oxygen training. We've seen great adoption in that realm of practices, meaning practices use the superhuman protocol, because their main issue is always retention. And retention is a problem with retention is a byproduct of I don't know if this thing is working.
Right.
So when people start to see that this is working, then they are much more likely to continue to pay for the sessions.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you mind giving us a little bit of information about the audience that your business is directed to, and the type of people that you see are interested in Pnoe and the information it provides?
Right. So I have two audiences. The bigger audience is the perimenopausal woman, and they do tend to have a lot of metabolic dysfunction. They have the weight gain from the hormonal imbalances and disruption, and they always come seeking the semaglutide because I think that's the cure to everything. And it's wonderful. It's a wonderful drug. I'm not knocking it. It's the most frequent drug or hormone that we prescribe in my office. But having the Pnoe with it helps us over time retain that client and to show them the benefits of what they're doing in conjunction with the body composition. So, if they're just to show how where the weight's being lost, just so that combination of the three has been extremely powerful. The second group that comes in, they are looking for exercise performance, endurance enhancements. So that's where, really partnering with these, and I've had so many people asking for it that I'm like, I have to tap into this. Working with the personal trainers at their local gyms to do the active metabolic profiles for them is becoming extremely imperative for our business to really take on. So I'm really excited about that because that RMR, the AMR, the active metabolic rate, looking at that crossover point, so important for people to be able to push that out and have measures and the exercises that they need to do that, because you could waste your time on the wrong exercises, not knowing, what to do or how much to do.
Totally. And, this is a very common thing that we see across different affiliates of ours. They start from one main industry, one main audience that they cater to, but because the nature of the test is so diverse, they have the ability to branch out into so many different areas. People, start with performance customers, like people that are weekend warriors. They are competing in Ironman challenges, you name it, and they start to attract weight loss customers because they're selling RMR tests, or they are going after the longevity market because now everyone in longevity, the followers of Brian Johnson, who's doing VO2max every month, and followers of so many other biohackers are so much going into VO2max testing and the rest that inevitably it becomes a magnet for three main industries. That's how we kind of categorize it. One is weight loss, the other one is longevity / biohacking, and the other one is performance, which is obviously not just athletes, or student athletes, but also like weekend warriors. So you can really diversify your business by using the PNOE test as a magnet pole for many a very diverse audience.
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge audience. I mean, it's basically everybody, which it can make it a little overwhelming. So focusing on, that one segment at a time, and there's more than enough people to keep you busy. And I mean, that could be a sole service line, basically. If I want
100%.
personal trainers in this, I'm in Philadelphia. If I went after every person in the city, like one, it would, I probably should do that. It'd be so much easier. My life would be so much easier. But just selling the test alone could be a $1 million business easily.
100%. We totally give you ammo to build a franchise. The thing is obviously execution, and as you very well said, focusing on one segment at a time, because to your point, it can become pretty overwhelming.
Right, because you can literally do it for everybody, and everybody probably does need it, but this gets into all your marketing stuff. It's trying to market everybody is like marketing to nobody. So with that perimenopausal woman, it is very helpful. Like, are you stuck? Are you hitting a plateau with your weight loss, or you just can't lose weight? And then bringing this in and educating. It's a tool for educating. And while you're educating, your services become obvious, and they might not realize it before. So it becomes an extremely powerful marketing tool.
I would say that what you just said is probably the most important reason why people do the PNOE test. Like, seeing metrics and actual biomarkers can be convincing, but what truly gets people to adopt something is understanding underlying physiology and getting educated. Like, once you get someone educated, they're there. You have their attention, period. And so, that's a big one. Awesome. So, Catie, anything else to add? If not, we can open it up to questions. There's a Q&A button, a Q&A section you guys can use in order to ask any questions you may have. But before we go into that, Catie, I don't know if you have any other, thoughts or things you'd like to share.
Yeah, the only other thing that I would say is, like, again, this could be something that you add into an IV hydration clinic. Then, based on the results, again, the PNOE report gives the patient what to do. So if you're offering IV hydration services, it's going to recommend IV hydration as a part of the treatment plan. So that makes it a really powerful, and again, becomes a third-party objective as opposed to you pushing IV services on them. It's like, well, the device says that I have X, Y, and Z issue, and the solution is IV hydration or vitamin therapy or red light therapy, or if you have all of it, it can give a combination, and it can be a dynamic report too, which is really nice. So it'll spit out stuff based on dynamic factors that are inputted. And we even have body contouring, and that goes in there as well as part of a protocol, a dynamic protocol that we have. So it's very diverse and versatile for our patient population. So if we're working with exercise performance, or we're working with resistant weight loss, different solutions will come out. So it's not cookie cutter. It's very unique and customized.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. This is, as I said earlier, like the funneling part into your services is one of the most important reasons why people buy PNOE. So I only have 2 questions here. I can just get started with addressing some of them. So what are your rates for RMR and VO2 studies? If you're referring to us conducting a mini validation or running a set of tests for you, that's something that we do offer for partners that we work with. For instance, we've done an independent validation on the NanoVi device, which is a biooptimization device, and we're doing that for some supplements. But we typically do that for commercial partners. So if you're interested in having a discussion around that, we're going to share a meeting link that you can use in order to schedule some time with one of our team members, and they can discuss that a little bit more.
Well, so if they're asking in terms of, like, for my business, that initial RMR, we either do it for free or if they buy it off the internet, it's like $100. Or if they get the nutrition and the metabolic, we charge $250. And if they want an active metabolic, it's $450. And we encourage them to do that quarterly. So, I mean, you can do the math from there about how many you would need to make the monthly income that you want.
Definitely. And what I'll do here is I'm gonna share, actually, maybe someone from my team can do that because I can't really see the chat form. Yeah, someone is gonna share the meeting link. 1 second. Awesome. For new providers, how do you recommend we become more educated about VO2 max and PLE? We do have a lot of material that you can start to digest. We recommend starting with our ebook, which is quite comprehensive. If you schedule some time with our team, someone is posting the link momentarily. They can direct you, and they can obviously send you the ebook, but also send you additional information. Also, are the reports customizable for clients? Yes, we do offer a lot of customization options. It's not just the aesthetics, but also in some cases like a programming part, etc. And obviously the services, what Catie has been, discussing quite a bit. So yeah, there's many different levels of customization in the report. The report is very comprehensive. So I would highly recommend just scheduling some time because there's just so many things I obviously couldn't cover them in the webinar. And oh yeah, I saw that. So my team just posted a link on the chat. Whoever is interested in addressing these issues with someone from our team, they can click the link and they can schedule some time. How do I integrate it into my primary care practice? Well, again, primary care practice can be a very, very, it can differ a lot from one box to another. And so it really depends on the services that you provide. It depends on your location, and also depends on the audience that you're addressing. But more or less, I think, again, best thing is to get in touch with someone from our team. You mentioned affiliates and partners versus customers. What is your model? Sorry if I missed it, but is it a subscription service? So we only sell to affiliates, which is providers like Catie. We don't really sell anything to consumers. And so we sell a whole host of services to affiliates, and it is a subscription model that includes the device and then also many other services. And then obviously, depending on the level of service, you pay a different subscription fee. However, at the end of the contract, you end up owning the device. And so after that point, you're just paying for whatever service you need. Will this presentation be available? Yes, this is a recorded session, and we will circulate a link to watch it, or if you want to forward it to someone you think may be interested. George, thank you for your kind words about the presentation. And then I'm just starting on my business, and it's really small. How do you guys work with really small businesses, and how affordable is it? We do have like lower tier packages that you can get started with. We typically recommend that you have at least 40 clients on an annual basis, which is not a huge practice, but for some maybe a few steps down the road from where they are right now. But I think it really also depends on the income level of your customers, how high-end your facility may be. So get in touch with someone and they can walk you through some ROI, return on investment scenarios and so on.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I did this as a complete startup and really with no cash coming in. So it's always scary. But I mean, people want this, and they need it. More importantly, and it really does keep the patients coming back to you and differentiate you from the IV hydration down the street or the GLP-1 provider. Like I said, the mailing, they can get it through the mail. So why come to you? You have to have a reason for them to come to you and stay with you.
Totally. And also something very important to note here is that you're paying monthly, and so you don't have like a big capital outlay.
Yeah, which is
as
huge.
opposed to as opposed to doing other things like buying a red light therapy bed or something like that. So that helps a lot with cash flow. So in essence, like we've seen that with Catie, but also many other affiliates who literally started a business just around Pnoe, and they're profitable from month one, and that's a big booster for getting a business off the ground. What is the typical cost of a client would pay for the service? Great question. Depends on where you're located. Obviously, if you're in Manhattan or expensive high-income area, you can charge anywhere between $250 and $350. Equinox, our customer, I think they charge in Manhattan around $350 for an AMR test. And then afterwards, if you include a comprehensive nutrition or training program, you basically turn that into a subscription for your customers. Also a great way to retain people and get more value out of them. And that is something that can range from $600 to $1,000 for 3 months, which is a significant revenue on a per customer basis.
Right. And
what is the
the
range?
oh, can I just say, like, the other thing that
Of
you can
course, yeah.
think about is, you're giving them a metabolic expert. So what does that cost? That's like a couple $100 an hour of their time. A nutritionist, which is also an outlay. So it's not just the test, they're getting this expertise as well. So you can layer that into, a subscription, like, if you layer that into a subscription, you can increase the value by that perceived value by showcasing exactly what they get. I mean, you can certainly use it as a lead magnet for free, but you can do a way higher end stack of what they're getting, and it'll be.
And this is like a great point. We've seen that happening a lot with customers that offer a wide range of services. So what they do is, because they have like many modalities and things they offer, they build a subscription and they're like, hey, pay me $500 a month and you have access to red light therapy and this and this and this. But now they bump that up to $750, so 50% off. And what they do is they bake in unlimited number of testing, metabolic testing, periodically. Obviously, no one's gonna get tested every day. And that is a way of taking your existing subscription basis and uplifting it with the inclusion of a regular testing and retesting, and then also maybe bump that up even more to $1,000 a month if you also include the nutrition and training program. So uplifting your subscription is also a very, very good way of utilizing not just the Pnoe test, but all the services we offer in order to build your business. Are you linking providers' websites and contact info? Oh yeah, that's a great question. We're actually starting a collaboration with a big locator. It's not going to be ours. It's going to be one that is run by one of our partners. And we're going to be sending out very soon an email to all of our affiliates who want to be included in that locator to share their contact information so that they are now discoverable for people looking to do VO2 max testing and RMR testing. By the way, we also do we do work with many influencers and people that have exposure to consumers. And we always get traffic, consumer traffic that we direct to people, but we didn't really have a locator. We're building one in collaboration with a partner. So that's coming up very soon. We have packages in a cash-only practice. Are we able to pay for client services through the clinic? Not sure I understand the question.
Yeah, I mean, we're a cash only service as
Yeah.
well, like a practice as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, insurance, I don't think insurance would pay for this. They don't pay for anything useful anyway, but
Yeah, we mainly work with cash-based businesses. Yeah. How are the training programs generated? So there's a level of automation, but then we also have people reviewing them. So yeah, it's not a cookie cutter software only approach. But the most important thing is that it takes into account the biological limitations that you've seen from the test. And then if you've done the AMR test, they also include your training zones. And then this is what makes all of your cardio training and interval training a lot more effective. Awesome. Oh, what is the range of monthly payments? Yeah, so range of monthly payments, it can start as low as around 500 to 600 a month, and then goes all the way up to, you know, several thousands for, you know, very large establishments who are utilizing a wide range of services with a lot of customization. But again, feel free to contact our team and get more specific offer that matches whatever your business needs. Awesome. I don't think we have any more questions. So Catie, thank you so much for joining me today. We had a great conversation.
yeah,
And I think a lot of people, you know, found it interesting. We're going to be circulating the link with a recorded session. Yeah, we shared the link here. Whoever wants to get in touch, please feel free to do so. And Catie, thank you so much again.
all right. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Have a good one, everyone.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.